been looking at Psalm 2, for a couple of weeks now. And last week, we were looking at verse 4, where it said it's kind of hard to see God laughing at somebody, but it says he does. You know, he laughs and he mocks. He says, and the reason is, and it's easy to see why, and the reason is because they're in rebellion. And, you know, if you don't want a reign of righteousness, then the alternative is a reign of wickedness, right? And so it's easy, you know. So so God, he mocks them, you know. So we can. Here's a Yiddish word: you schmucks. Surely you saw this coming. No, they didn't. Okay, fine. So anyway, according to Paul's letter to the Thessalonians, he says God's going to give them their wish. Okay, have it your way. Kind of like the children of Israel when they wanted a king. God says, well, you know, he warned them, you guys are making trouble for yourselves. You won't like it. And then they insisted. So, okay. You know, it comes, or like in the first chapter of Romans, for instance, where it's first chapter. Remember all those lists of sins, you know, they're really, you know, things that are kind of even embarrassing to read. And you'll see in verses, the chapter, Romans 1, verses 24, 26, and 28, you have these three phrases that they're deadly. They're deadly, where it says God gave them up. He gave them up. He gave them over. There just comes a time when God says to a nation or a people, or in this case, the whole world, according to Psalm 2, have it your way. You can have it your way. Yeah. Your will be done. Or like in the Ten Commandments, you know, when Moses is talking to Ramesses, you know, and Ramesses threatens him, you know, all right, next time you see my face, you will surely die, Moses. And Moses, he's walking out. He says, well, so let it be written, so let it be done. You know, that's the way the movie went. It was cool. I liked it. You know. So anyway, okay, so now I want to talk about the second return of Christ. But to talk about that, I want to talk about the resurrection. Okay. See, a lot of preachers, it's hard to believe. I wasn't raised that way. I was raised up in PCA here. And the resurrection was a fact of Christ. The resurrection of Christ was just a fact. That was the way it was. You know, nobody questioned it. Nobody doubted it or anything. And yet, you can imagine my astonishment to find out that surveys, when they're taken of the churches, various Christian churches, so-called, a lot of preachers deny the resurrection. It never happened. And I read an article. You know, I don't remember. It was a minister of some kind. I don't remember. Anyway, he made it plain that his faith did not in any way depend on the resurrection. He called it those lovely bones. If they found those bones out, you know, bones of Christ out there someplace, well, that wouldn't disturb me a bit. That was a Church of England minister that wrote he wrote this phrase. He said he called the resurrection, he says, nothing but a conjuring trick with bones. See, then what happens is that if you don't have the resurrection, without the resurrection, see, Christ then is reduced to an idea. He's just an idea. He's a concept of goodness, a spiritual reality, which implies, in this case, you know, without a corresponding physical reality. And that's where we're going with this. Okay? Christ is, he's confined to the ghostly, to the realm of philosophy, rather than having any kind of physical existence. So we get platitudes like, well, Christ still lives in my heart, you know, but the implication is he doesn't live anywhere else. You know, you hear that sometimes. Yeah, he's in my heart, you know. So what happens then is that this world becomes the only world that's real. This is it right here. See, in heaven, it's off someplace beyond the blue. It doesn't have anything to do with this material world outside of its philosophical influence. See, they've become practical materialists is what's happened. Okay. And so a lot of people call themselves Christians. In fact, Bill was, it was a funny thing, but Bill was telling me about this lady that he heard on the radio she said she was in an argument, a heated argument about the influence of the church, and she said, "Well, I'm a Christian, but that doesn't mean I have to believe in God and Jesus and all that stuff." It's just, yeah, it does. It does. Yes, you're wrong. You're not a Christian. Of course it means that. That's the definition of being a Christian. Well, anyway, and so what you have, as many as one half or more of the preachers, that's the clergy in the churches, actually, they claim to be born-again Christians. They don't believe in the bodily resurrection of Christ. Okay? They've become materialists. Heaven doesn't exist as a physical reality. And let me put this in box. See, as many as a third of born-again Christians, they claim to be born again, believe, this is an affirmative, they believe that Jesus did not come out of the tomb. Okay? Now, nor was Christ born of a virgin, for that matter. The percentage of ministers and preachers and clergy who don't believe in the bodily resurrection of Christ is even higher than that. Okay, so here's the deal. As a member of this church, it doesn't matter whether I'm a member of this church or not, personally, I believe completely and only in a resurrected Christ. That's all I believe in. And, see, for me, there's no such thing as an unresurrected Christ. Okay? I don't worship, and I'm never going to worship an unresurrected Christ. Yeah. I'm not going to worship a Christ that did not come out of the grave. I have no intention of that. Okay? An unresurrected Christ isn't my God. Don't believe in him. In terms of Paul's letter to the Ephesians, remember we've been looking at Ephesians 5 and kind of looking at this psalm through those glasses that Paul gave us in Ephesians 5. I deny that I'm bone of his bone and flesh of his flesh, of a Christ that is still in the grave. Okay. Now, these are my own words, and I'm sure that everybody here, each of you could, in this room, you could say something similar about your own faith in the resurrected Christ. See, the table makes no sense without a Christ who came out of the grave. It doesn't make any sense to have a table. It doesn't make any sense to even be here. See, but I said all that to say this. Okay, the idea of a Christ who came out of the grave in this world, it happened in this world, it happened over in Jerusalem. Okay. Necessarily influences how I see the scriptures. It's got to. I'm going to see him differently than somebody who doesn't believe in Christ, that he came out of the grave. You see what I'm saying? I have to believe in the physical reality of the resurrection, and that forces me to believe in the physical fulfillment of the rest of the Psalms, of the rest of the prophets. You see, with prophecies, you see what I'm saying? I'm simply led in that direction. So, actually, there's no such thing as a non-bodily resurrection. See, the spirit of a person, that continues to exist according to the scriptures without the body. The spirit of a person doesn't resurrect. You don't resurrect something that's living. The body of a person, the physical body, is the only thing subject to the resurrection. Anyway, since the birth of Christ, it took place in this world. It was predicted to come. Christ was predicted to come. And so his body, his birth took place in a town called Bethlehem. Historical fact, right? Okay. His life took place in this world. His death took place in the world. And his resurrection also took place in this world, out of the tomb in this world. See, and so when I look at Psalm 2, I look at it as taking place in this world. I can't do it any other way, right? I can't see it any other way. It's a physical occurrence that Psalm 2 is describing. See? So the psalm is predicting things that will soon become current events, things that they're going to be reported in the newspapers. They're going to constitute actual history. That history is going to take place on this earth, and it's going to have effects that are felt right here in Graton. Okay. Now, I can't take the words as like a prediction of some amorphous unstructured, vaporous, unidentified sort of generalized description of the gradual takeover of the world by the gospel, which ushers in some kind of a golden age. You hear that sometimes, some kind of a golden age of humanity that it just continues on in happy harmony off into the countless centuries of unending peace and prosperity. You hear it interpreted that way. Okay? I unconsciously see Christians, they may actually have that idea, that the feeling that this world is going to last a long time. What the Bible actually predicts is the total destruction of this world. Not going to. All its works, the end of the human species on this planet, predicts that. And that's going to happen not too terribly long from now. Predicts that too. See? Newspapers gone, reporters gone, pyramids of Egypt gone, all that. Hoover Dam, General Electric gone, pharmaceuticals gone, stock market gone, voting machines gone, UN gone. Everything that matters to us today is simply going to be gone. All right? Like the morning mist. See, here for a moment, then this world is simply gone. Okay. Now, Peter talks about this thing, the very thing. In 2 Peter 3, 10 and 12, the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night. That's what he's describing. He says, suddenly, quickly, by surprise. Oh, no. It happens. You're walking along, and then suddenly the world is gone around you, dissolved, right? In which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise. The elements shall melt with fervent heat. The earth also, the works that are therein, shall be burned up. Okay? Seeing then, and it's an admonishment to the Christians who are around, that's us right now, before all that happens. Seeing then all these things shall be dissolved, all the stuff that matters to us right now. Okay? What manner of persons ought ye be in all holy conversation and godliness? Got to get ourselves cleaned up, right? Jesus is coming back. That's what, okay. Looking for and hastening the coming of the day of God, wherein, this particular day, wherein the heavens being on fire shall be dissolved. See, everything, the heavens too, it's all gone. And the elements melt with fervent heat. He's not talking about, some kind of a spiritual happening. He's talking about the end of the physical world, the end of California. I can't believe it. But that's what he's saying, right? Okay. He's talking about the end of the physical earth. The end of this world is going to be it's going to become a current event. It's going to be a very brief current event, but a current event nevertheless. Okay, the last one, in fact. But until this final event, and this is the point, until this final event, history is going to take place. Kingdoms rise, kingdoms fall, kings, presidents, prime ministers, and dictators. They're going to live, and then they're going to die. That's what's going to happen. Nation's going to go on for a time, then they're going to be dissolved too. There is no Hittite empire. It was a big empire in Bible days, in the Old Testament times. Well, it's not around now. And sooner or later, there's not going to be a United States of America either. I know, it makes us blink. What? I thought this country was eternal. Well, not really. Okay, it's here for a while, and then it's going to be gone. All right? But until that final event, history is going to keep going. Okay? In any case, what I'm getting at is that Psalm 2 isn't about that day. That's about something else. It's not talking about the last day of the existence of the earth. It's not talking about the end. It's a prophetic preview of current events to come. That's what Psalm 2 is all about. It's a prophetic overview of physical events that's going to happen in this world, events that are going to be seen by all the world, events that are going to be experienced by those who dwell on this earth, rich and poor, bond and free, kings, mighty men, and so on, everybody. A king is coming. A king is coming. The Prince of Princes, the King of Kings is coming. And he's not going to come as some philosophical idea either. He's not going to come as kind of a mental condition. He's going to come as an actual, visible, touchable, current event. A person. Now, we're going to get to that person in verse 6. But in verse 5, we're going to read this. Psalm 2:5. Then, after that other stuff happened, after he mocks them for a while, after God mocks them, then shall he speak unto them in his wrath and vex them in his sore displeasure. Okay? That's the next current event. That's what's going to happen next. See, after God laughs in verse 4, and it doesn't mean he's happy. It's not a happy laugh. Okay? He's angry with the sins of men. And so verse 5, see, where God speaks to them in his wrath, it's more history written before it happens. That's going to happen. God is going to do some vexing. And we don't see God these days, generally. Some of us are fortunate enough to see him in a vision or something, but most of us don't. But we're still aware of his presence. He's here right now, in the room with us. We're aware of that. You think the kings of the earth aren't aware? They are. They are. See, in this psalm, God says they are. They know who it is that they're rebelling against. They know who it is that's speaking with them. They know. And who it is that's angry with them, and they know who it is that's vexing them. Not us. Those guys. Those guys. That's who God's talking about. The thing most Christians see, we don't think about, is that those who have been deliberately chosen to side, I wrote the wrong thing. Those who have chosen deliberately to side with the God of this world, see, those people, they do understand what they've done. They understand that. They've made themselves enemies to God, and they know that. They're not ignorant. We keep thinking people are ignorant. How can you reject God? So, you must be doing it because you don't understand. That's not true. They understand. They do understand. It's deliberate. Okay? The other week, a couple of weeks back, I mentioned the opening ceremony of the 35-mile Goddard Base Tunnel under the Swiss Alps. Okay? That ceremony was frankly pagan. You had goat head and all kinds of pretty sinful dances and stuff like that. Really, it was quite spooky, and it was attended by the political leaders of France and Germany and Italy. These nations, they have a long history of Christianity, and these leaders were not ignorant of what they were doing. They didn't do that in ignorance. Saying, so between them and God, there is communication, all right. It's communication of rage and rebellion on the part of the leaders, according to the psalm, and judgment and retribution on the part of God, according to this psalm. See? And so, how's God vex them? What's he actually do to get them so mad? Well, it's for certain that when this king comes, remember that passage in Matthew where Jesus said, he was talking about a prince that had gone a long ways away, and then when he finally came back, he went away to receive a kingdom. He came back and he said, bring those people that didn't want me, bring them here and slay them before me. Most of these guys, most of these people are going to lose their lives at the advent of Christ. That's vexing. That's vexing. They're going to consider that somewhat vexing. And if any are left alive, probably not going to be, they're going to lose the thing that's most dear to them, the most dear to their, next to their lives, and that is their power. Their power. The loss of their ability to dominate large political and commercial landscapes. That's going to be very vexing to those who are used to wielding great influence in the world. Their power is going to be stripped from them. Just like taking a pair of scissors out of an infant's hand, right? You can't have those. It'd do too much damage. Hey, just like that. That's going to be vexing to them. And we all know what the instrument of that vexing, that instrument of God's retribution and vexation is. See, that's in verse 6. Okay? Yet I have set my king upon my holy hill of Zion. The king is coming. See? Now, I've got a lot here, and I'm just not going to say it all. what I'm going to do is go on just a little bit. I'm not going to force Candy to leave early. I'm so sorry. That was my fault, too. I knew that. Okay. I'm just going to draw a line across. We're going to quit right there and take up next week. That's what's going to happen. Okay. But I'm going to push it a little teeny bit. See, in Revelation 6:15 and 17, God makes a comment about what happens on the day when the king arrives. Okay. He says, look, Revelation 6:15 and 17, and the kings of the earth. That's these guys he's talking about in Psalm 2. Kings of the earth, the great men, rich men, chief captains, mighty men, every bondman, every free man. What'd they do? They hid themselves. Oh no, in the dens and the rocks of the mountains, and said to the rocks of the mountains, fall on us and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb, for the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? Oh no. Now see, we go, the king is coming. You know what they're going? Oh no, the king is coming. See, different, totally. All right. So everyone, everywhere. See, from the narrative in Revelation, you can see that the second coming of Christ to this earth isn't sudden, isn't unexpected. It's not the unexpected end of all things. That's not what it is. Like the sudden end of the world. Peter talked about the sudden end of the world, where the elements are dissolved in fervent heat. These guys, they have time to see God coming. They've got time to get good and afraid. They've got time to try to find a hiding place. They have time to pray to the wrong gods. Remember what they were praying to? The rocks and the hills. No, that's stupid. They're not going to help you. These are more current events. It's not the last day Peter was talking about, but it's a pretty tough day for those who have chosen to defy God to his face. The real king is coming. God has a different idea of just who it is that should reign on the earth. And the king that God has chosen is going to do some more current events. He's about to make some more history. Now, Vince mentioned something, and I thought about it too. And that's, would anyone here like to vote for Jesus for president? See, and the thing of it is, you guys are all Christians, so you have to say yes. All right, that's the way it is. You're on this side. You're on Jesus' political side. Okay, it's too late for a write-in candidate. I go, oh man, I should have thought of that. I missed it. I could have written in Jesus. I should have. Okay, next time I'm going to do that. Now stop and consider what it means. If Jesus were president, it means that God's president. Kind of problem here for some people if that were to happen. See, this king, he's not going to get elected. He's imposed on the world against the will of the world. In fact, Revelation talks about the kings of the world. See, their armies at the very end gathering together to fight against Christ and against his army. See, that's in Revelation 19:19. See, that battle is also going to be current events, and it's going to be a historical fact too. Because it's not talking about a democracy. We don't get to vote. I could write Jesus' name in, and next time I'm going to. That's it. But you can be sure of this, that no matter the personal integrity of the king, no matter how incorruptible he is, and he is totally incorruptible, no matter how just his reign, his rule is going to surely vex those who want to be in a position of power and influence. And they're prevented from acquiring that power and influence by the righteous king. You see, Jesus is God. He's omniscient. He knows everything. He knows the heart of man. And more to the point, he knows the sins of every man. And he knows, and here's the real thing, he knows where each and every skeleton is hidden in each and every closet. See, for somebody like Jesus, that prohibition against the Fourth Amendment against unreasonable search, it's meaningless. He already knows. He knows. He knows. See, Jesus would be a president from whom nothing could be hid. See the problem? These guys would hate that. 5 minutes over. I'm going to draw a line right through here, and we're going to quit. point is that the king really is coming, and he's coming to this world. And this Psalm 2 is a description, a partial description of what's going to happen, and the reception that Jesus can expect when he does come. Right there, I got to quit. Okay, so it's time for the invitation now.